Obviously, in the world of today, where boundaries are falling into pieces and wherever people are trying to mix and mash and also do fusions, I think it's important to show with our guest today that French style, etiquette, or eventually excellence is completely in line with the 21st century. And we're not necessarily looking at something old-fashioned and dusty, but completely into today's world. To Jean-Paul, how would you define today's French design, very briefly?
I would say that French design is very, very active nowadays. Every 2 years, we organize a prize. Every time we receive thousands of projects. Here, for example, in Dubai, we have projects from Bruno Moinard, from Tristan Hauer, and I know that Adéaï and Gardère also have worked here.
Julia, back to you. You were born in Australia. You moved to France, you said, about 20 years ago?
Yes.
Now, does it make you French?
I really love the French style and the French vision, and when I'm talking to international clients, part of what we're selling or giving is, for us, in terms of architecture, interiors and design, is really a certain level of detail. For me, over the last years and the whole team, we've really learnt that level of detail and finesse that we call the French touch, because we've worked so closely with craftsmen, and so we've learnt how to really go down into all that fine detail.
The new technologies have really changed a lot of the practice on an everyday basis. I mean, now you're a sculptor, eventually if you use a CNC machine, but no longer your hands, for example, right? So how does it affect the know-how and the practice on an everyday basis for a project? Should we be scared of the new technology? Are we taking this as a friend? How does it change when you deal with very strong, rooted, year-long skills of artisan?
For us, new technology is really fantastic, and we love to be able to use new technology to push craftsmanship, to be able to marry them and create a dialogue. We did a project recently in Fukuoka with an ancestral technique called kumiko, which is an interior screen made up of flower-shaped modules. We redesigned the panels for a complete facade for an Hermès shop with the parametric design technology, so that they would be solid and void where we wanted more intimacy and less intimacy. And then we did the designs, and then they were produced in Japan by Japanese craftsmen by hand. By using this technology, we've also allowed that craftsman to go from something which is a small scale to something which is really big scale, and so you support them also in their development.
Ian, want to share some experience about this?
About new technologies in museums and in mediation, interpretations, I think the question is how rooted and how legitimate the use of this technology or this one is. If there is one moment where in a show, in dialogue with an artifact, you can find a technology legitimacy, so where what it brings is actually perfectly genuine with what the overall exhibition or space or museum or interior architecture or even building is conveying, then it has all its legitimacy. Project, what you were describing about this kumiko is extraordinary, because whoever would look at it would somehow, even if you don't know anything about that technique, you kind of feel the thread that has been pulled since, without breaking. There's a word, very French, I think it exists in English, which is endogenous versus exogenous, something that comes from within.
Adrien, the theme of today is also about the art of vivre, and when we spoke preparing this talk, we talk about hospitality. You mentioned something which I liked as well. It was not necessarily the art of vivre, but the art of recevoir. For those who don't speak French, recevoir, it means the art of welcoming and hosting. So how is it important in the project that you're developing?
Well, I don't know if it is. I mean, if the metaphor of the table and the dinner and and the festin and is the right metaphor. But what is sure is that when you are hosting people at your table, you want them to feel at ease in the museums and in the cultural spaces that we're designing. What we want is people to feel entrusted, entitled. We are really entrusting them by saying, relate, look with your eyes, move with your legs, weave the journey you wish to weave among the artifacts, establish relationship with them, and you are capable, you have all the resources necessary to establish that relationship. Back to the idea of hosting or welcoming or recevoir, it's all about consideration. And that goes back to the material and the industries. If the industries does consider what they are manufacturing, the temporality in which it is done, the craftsmanship with which it is done, the uses and the destiny of these artifacts, furniture, then you try to do them good, try to do them well, because you're considering the public.
Nowadays, brands convey a certain style, like Sina, Rosel, Ferrol, Roche-Beaubois, and customers will want more from the brands. The brands have to be more interested in conveying ideas about sustainability, about the social role. So that's a key issue also.
Bouncing back on sustainability, when we prepared this talk with Julia, you mentioned how thorough and serious you are when you outsource for a project with
Yes.
your partners.
Yes.
Can you explain the process you're going through?
Yes, sustainability is very important for us. We have a huge material library, which is run by 3 people full time. It's super important. Local sourcing for materials and for craftsmanship. In each project, we will use local materials or craftsmanship or French craftsmanship working with local materials. And that way, you also make sustainability desirable because people can see Hermes or condominiums coming in and showing them a new way to look at the country that they're in and the products that are available and the materials.
And I think that one element which might be very important in all these processes is to leave space for the people. What in cinema we call hors champ is extremely important because that gives the capacity to make your own and belong, relate. And I think these are key elements, and craftsmanship is obviously and material-wise is extremely important in this regard.
Do we have any questions at the audience?
Just to summarize, what is the future of design?
What I've been saying here, experience, sustainability, telling stories. I would summarize everything in just one phrase. Don't buy anymore, fall in love. I mean, that's the future of design, that's the future of products, that's the future of what we're doing. We just don't want to make things anymore. We just don't want to produce. We want to make things that make sense, that you really feel like you're in love with it. A product that you will keep for you for your whole life and maybe give to your children.
We discussed about the sustainability aspect, we discussed about the maybe end of a certain phase of globalization, as you were saying. So are you confident in the next future? We need positive vibes, right? So I mean, I don't necessarily want negative answers. So choose your answers. But do you have anything positive to say for the next future, 50 years?
Globalization is not over at all. What is probably over is standardization.
Yes.
The standardization of everything that is consumable, regardless wherever in the world, that's over. And that's what technologies allows. Technologies precisely allows the tailor-made production of things that were totally standardized. Mazda was quite of an experience that was led by Foster & Partner in Abu Dhabi, which was the demonstration that it is possible to build, and not only possible, necessary to build differently and address urbanism in a very complete different way, and leaning on what could be the craftsmanship of yesterday, because these are the wind towers of yesterday, and all these systems of masharabeyas that are actually extremely adapted and perfectly genuine, and that technology can allow you to bring to a level of efficiency that is unique. And that's what needs to be addressed here in terms of architecture and urbanism, obviously, because towers of glass and roads of concrete won't make it. That's obvious.
I think the human intelligence is so fantastic that I really hope that we will find solutions to all our problems. And I think it's extremely interesting to look at what is happening here, because the danger is so close. The climate change could be so strong that they have to find solutions. It has to be a laboratory for the future. So it's certainly interesting to look at what is going to happen in the UAE, and I think there are a lot of ideas and, to change things.